So, Taylor, tell me a little bit about table flipping. It's an incredible podcast. I'm obsessed with it. I want to hear all about it.
Thank you. Yeah, I love table flipping. Table flipping with Taylor and Alyssa, or Alyssa and Taylor, is a podcast we do weekly. It's both myself, Taylor Mishak, and then one of my best friends, Alyssa Littman. She's a comedy writer. I'm an actress. We both work in scripted TV, but we're both obsessed with unscripted TV and are always told to make it, we're always made to feel like it's a guilty pleasure. And it's not. It's fun and it's entertainment. And it's great TV. So we recap and react to what's going on weekly in like the reality world, whatever is on air right now. And then we try to do interviews with other people who work in scripted television, whether they're writers, actors, comedians, and just kind of have a safe space to talk about that guilty pleasure.
Nice. And how did it get started? How long have guys been doing the podcast?
Oh gosh, we've been doing it for over a year now because I remember we started it at the end of 2019 and we were at first just really self-producing it because it was just sort of a labor of love. And it really started ironically sort of from another podcast. My boyfriend is a really big fan of Alyssa's boyfriend's sports podcast. He has a 76ers basketball podcast called The Rights to Ricky Sanchez. And the two of them had got connected and wanted to meet for a double date. So Alyssa and I were kind of like on this blind double date, and we're making all of these niceties and just being polite and asking where her jean jacket is from. And the boys are just like going at it about how much that all of this common ground that they have. And then finally, we like really connected about realizing the two of us both wanted to like go home and watch Real Housewives of Beverly Hills. And we were like, oh, what do you think is going on with Teddy Mellencamp? Do you believe Lisa Vanderpump? And it like unleashed all of this conversation and passion and excitement. And for the next like few weeks and months, all we were doing was texting back and forth about shows, making each other laugh. And we were like, oh, this is so fun that we like have somebody to talk to. Cause sometimes you go to work and someone's like, you watch The Bachelor? And you're like, yeah, I do. I do watch The Bachelor. So we were like, it's kind of fun that we've both found this space to just like connect and celebrate these shows that we love that bring us a lot of joy and entertainment. And then we just like got the ball rolling on the podcast.
That's incredible. What are some of your favorite shows to recap?
Oh gosh, it is really fun to recap The Bachelor or The Bachelorette because I think what might surprise a lot of people is that we do have a lot of critiques of the show. Like we talk about that show on a very meta level that I like. We're always like, what were the producers thinking about this? Like, what was the thought process behind this date or this episode? Like, what's going on? We do really, really love a lot of the Real Housewives. The name Table Flipping comes from a fantastic, iconic scene of Real Housewife of New Jersey, Teresa Giudice flipping a table in anger. And so that's one of our big pillars. And that's a big thing that we like talking about specifically when it comes to, I mean, usually the housewives, but this is true for a lot of reality TV, is that there's some really complicated and messy women on these shows that are like not really in the scripted world. They could say these just like really, really shocking things or do something that's going too far. And we both find that really cathartic. So we get a real kick out of recapping any of those sort of outrageous Real Housewives shows too. But we do it all.
Nice. I love the name of the podcast. That's what got me because that's one of my favorite reality TV show scenes of all time.
Yes. Oh, I'm very, very glad you appreciate it. Because I think out of context, people are like, table flipping. Okay. Like, I guess that's just a fun verb, but it's like, no, it's the table flip, you guys. Come on.
Yes. And you'll find this, appreciate this. When I say at my mom's and I feed one of her cats, if she doesn't get her food on time, she'll flip her thing. And I'm like, okay, Teresa.
Exactly. See, she's a real diva. That inspires me.
Yes, she is. She's going to be 17 next month. So she's earned her divaness.
Yeah, inspirational. Yeah, she could do whatever she wants.
Exactly. Yes. And what do you think of the Housewives this season with the Beverly Hills and New York and
Ooh, I think it's really fun to be commenting on all of these Bravo shows that are kind of getting a facelift after a big sort of outcry from audiences about wanting more diversity and wanting more inclusivity and just like being smarter about the way that they're creating these shows that obviously are very like silly and frivolous in so many ways, but are still really impactful. So you have a responsibility to make still something that is good and hopefully morally sound at the end of the day. We are both really, Alyssa and I, enthralled by what's happening with Erica Girardi / Erica Jane on The Real Housewives of Beverly Hills, because while the show was being shot, there was this huge scandal with her and her husband where they've got caught doing all sorts of illegal kinds of things. And when in many situations someone on a television show backs away from the cameras, this is a rare moment of Erica trying to use the show and her platform as sort of her alibi, and it's fascinating. It's really, I've never seen all of my years of watching these shows to watch someone who's in like really, really hot legal water use her like confessionals on The Real Housewives as a way to try and like garner public favor. Is like, just the stakes are so high for me. So we're both eating that up a lot.
Oh, absolutely. And did you see the Housewife and a Hustler thing that they had on Hulu?
Yes. Oh my gosh. I watched it the moment it was released. It was like, it was like 8 a.m. in the morning and I was watching it. And that was really interesting too. And we talk about that on the pod, about the things that are created for a Bravo or a reality TV fan and the thing that's created just for anyone watching TV. Because beyond reality TV that so many people love, everybody loves a scandal. So
Yes,
I thought
exactly.
that special was kind of targeted towards everyone. Like I could see my parents watching it in a sort of like, oh, honey, look at what's on 60 Minutes tonight sort of a way. So yeah, I thought that special was really juicy.
Yeah, and like all the stuff that happened with all the people and the victims and stuff, my heart completely broke
Oh,
for them.
it's so dark. And it's also so important that special happened to shine light on exactly that, and like what what was really at stake and what the real issues are. Because if you're watching just the show, I think Erica is trying to make herself seem like kind of a victim. And so you've got to kind of broaden your resources to realize that like she's probably not. Like there's real victims. And again, it just makes the situation so much more wild to me that she's still on the show when there's so many like grave issues at hand in her life. So it's bananas.
It really is. And I'm wondering, since they had to take a break in filming when Kyle and Dorit all had COVID, I'm wondering if they're going to quietly get rid of her during that time and
Ooh,
change it up.
interesting. That's interesting. What's I think interesting about that is that the past 2 episodes have been very Erica heavy. So that sort of supports your theory that they might have way less of her in the second half of the season, because I'm sitting here going, they're going to run out of footage. Like they're going to run out of all of this Erica material. So they might be like, going to pump the brakes. You're right. After the break, it'll be interesting to see. And this is exactly why I'm obsessed with these shows. Is this conversation? I'm like, what's the strategy? What's going to happen?
I have found my people. Yes. And okay, are you team Sutton? Or are you team Crystal in this whole fiasco that's going on?
Great question. I ultimately am team Crystal. I think that Sutton's putting her foot in her mouth quite a bit. I think that and I can't say I was a huge Sutton stan before. I think a lot of people are, and that's somewhat curious to me. And I really like Crystal. I think her sort of like dry and like no BS attitude and her like immediate comfortability with the women was like, I just admired it. And I very much like her vibe. What I will say is, she did do the like, I'm not going to bring this up. I don't want this to be an issue. And then kept bringing things up and making it an issue, which I'm not too mad at because that makes a great housewife. It makes great TV. And it's just what you do. You're playing the game. But that's just to be fair to all my Sutton stans out there. What do you think? Who do you prefer? Are you a Sutton stan?
I was last season. I loved her this season, but this season, not so much. It's just, I don't know what's going on with her. I feel like she's completely off her. I don't want to say off her rocker because that's not right. There's just something so different about her this season.
Yes, she's super, because for lack of a better word, she seems so like emotional about everything that then it's harder to decide what's really important to you. And it's easier for the other women to then disregard her as just like going through something. And because if you're just seemingly overreacting to every little thing, the real big issues you're not going to be heard. So I think you're right. There's just seems to be there's a lot going on with Sutton. But I am happy she's finally got her diamond. She deserves it.
I'm wondering though if she's going through some kind of quarantine blues or quarantine depression. Because remember when it was being filmed, we were smack dab in the middle of the pandemic. So I'm wondering if there was anxiety from that because she's on top of that, moving and dealing with all this stuff. And I'm wondering if like everything just hit her and just one thing took one thing and all of a sudden.
Yeah, I think that's a very fair hypothesis because a lot of the women in one of the very first episodes this season talk about the effect quarantine had on them, which I think is important for everybody to talk about. And it makes so much sense when you're watching these people on TV with living the lifestyles of the rich and the famous that they're still like, man, I was really sad or aimless or frustrated in my house. And yeah, a move in that time can be very, very stressful. And she's living in Kyle's house, which is so interesting to me. Like, how much is it going to feel like her own if she's like leasing one of her friends' homes and she's having the friend over all the time? I would be so self-conscious if I was leasing out my friend's home and I was hosting them a lot. Like, all of it just seems like it would add a little element of stress to whatever is going on.
That's what I was thinking too, exactly. And now on Wednesday, we have the episode where Lisa reveals that her daughter's dating Kourtney Kardashian's baby daddy.
Yes, I can't wait for that. I've talked about this a bit on Table Flipping where they advertise so much of the Erica stuff. And I, as I've proven now, am very fascinated with all that. But am happy that the season is carrying itself without that all the time. Like I liked the Kyle and Dorit fight. I liked the Sutton v. Crystal fight. I'm here for I love the dumpling making party. I thought that was like such a cool set piece. And now the Lisa Rinna will share anything on TV. And I get this sense that maybe her family doesn't want that, but she's like, it's my job. We're all public figures. It's what's happening. So I also love that. Like, this show gives us so much.
Yes, I cannot wait. And I cannot wait to see everybody's reaction to that. And moving on to New York. Oh, wow. First of all, I'm an Ebony stan. I think she's fantastic.
Yeah. Yeah. She's such an amazing new housewife. I think there's a lot of pressure like joining that team because talk about a really iconic cast and a really small cast. So it's harder, I think, when you're thrown into the mix and there's only like 5 housewives in that city. And they're all big personalities. But no, I love Ebony. I think that she's a really great addition. And I love her friendship with Leah. I think that they're like they balance each other out a little bit. So it's nice.
Yes. And then we have them with Ramona and Sonia. It's just incredible.
Amazing. It's funny too to see I think that Sonia is one of the funniest women in like television history. Like, absolutely, I think Sonia is so funny, and it's so great to see her like just continue to be just so silly and make me laugh all the time. And she's one of the people I'm sure she's not perfect. But there's like the crazy things that Ramona does that I cannot like morally support. And I always am like crossing my fingers that Sonia like doesn't cross into that lane. And thus far she hasn't. Like, I could still be a Sonia stand across the board, and it's really exciting. And Ramona is also undeniably great TV. I think it's exciting seeing like, you know, the Real Housewives there's like so much alcohol, there's so much drinking, everything is to the extreme. Having these two really heavy, like sober storylines, I guess I'll say, with both Leah and Luann, I think is really cool and really unique to the show. And is also, again, like an important thing to share for people out there that are like, yeah, God, I need to stop drinking too. Maybe I'll try Luann's fake rosé.
Nice. Yeah, I'm definitely, next time I have a friend that's expecting or sober, I'm going to definitely buy it for them.
Yeah.
I think it was such an ingenious idea for her to come out with, because you don't think about that. You're just like, oh, there's soda and iced tea over there. You don't think, oh, have some wine or, non-alcoholic wine or anything. So that is ingenious of her. She's something else too.
Yeah. Oh no, she's great. And I love the cabaret. I think like she's so iconic. I'm loving that show. And it's funny to me, I mean, even just in this conversation, I think both of those cities, those franchises, those shows are really different from one another. And it's funny that I think that there's a lot of people who hear like, oh, the Real Housewives, there's like so many real, and if you don't watch, you just assume it's all really homogenous and it's all the same. And in so many ways it is, but like when you really get down to it and you're really enjoying both shows, like they could not be more different to me, right?
Exactly. Yes. Yes. And I think you need to watch it for a little bit before you actually get into it and realize the goodness that is Housewives.
And that you get lost in it. Like we have so many people we've interviewed on the pod that are just like, this is, I started it and all of a sudden I was like 4 seasons in. And that could be for any show. Like it's like Below Deck Med or like Real Housewives of New York or Potomac or whatever. It's really, what we love so much about it is that you can really, really get lost. It could be like a real, form of escapism and to forget about it, especially in a scary year like last year and so many crazy things going on in the world. It's nice to just be like watching TV. You could truly like just laugh and be gasping at silly things and someone flips a table and it's insane.
Exactly. I don't know if any moment's going to top that table flip.
I know, but I'm just hoping you're just in pursuit. I don't know. The leg throw in Real Housewives of New Jersey or no, New Housewives of New York is pretty great. There's like a Real Housewife who throws her prosthetic leg across the
Aviva,
room. Yes. Yeah. Like that's pretty iconic as well. I don't know. I feel like there's so many really spectacular things, but nothing beats the table flip. That's true.
Right. Exactly. And out of all the franchises, which one is your favorite? Is it Beverly Hills? Is it New York, Jersey?
I think like as a whole body of work, considering all the seasons, it would be Beverly Hills, but it might be a little bit of that being like my original Broadway cast because it's how I got into it. What I will say is right now, the like franchise that I'm enjoying the most currently is Potomac. I think the Real Housewives of Potomac is like delivering on every level. Like what I was saying earlier about Lisa Rinna, like just like giving all of her life and being like, this is my job. This is my obligation. I'm going to give them a great show. I think is what sort of all of the women on Real Housewives of Potomac are doing. And I'm just always in awe when I'm watching that show. I think that they bring the drama. They bring like so much about their lives. They're all so stunning. So it's just like also aesthetically a really pleasing show to watch. I think a lot of these shows are, there's whatever city they're in, they do that like fun B-roll of all the cities. And you'll be like, oh, I want to go to Atlanta. I want to go to Potomac. Like, look at this. It's so cute. But yeah, I think those are my two favorites probably.
Yes, I'm constantly writing down where they're eating and where they're going. I'm like, just in case I go there, I could go down, get a drink there, go get this.
Yeah.
Perfect. And what are some of your favorite scripted shows?
Oh gosh. Of all time or what's on right now?
Both.
Favorite scripted shows. I love The Sopranos. I think that's probably like, and I've rewatched it once this past year and it's just like such a perfect show. I think it's so much funnier than I even remembered it. It's like actually quite a dark comedy. I also am a big stan of Lost, and I know people have notes for Lost. People have all sorts of criticisms. I don't care. I think that show is like absolutely groundbreaking and absolutely has me enthralled every time I watch it. I'm like a huge Lost stan. And then shows that are like more current that I scripted I'm really vibing with is I loved Queen's Gambit. Did you watch Queen's Gambit on Netflix? So good. And that was like, we've talked about, there's women in reality TV that are like kind of messy or complicated or just like not exactly what you're seeing in scripted. I really loved that in Queen's Gambit with the main character, there didn't feel to be a huge effort to make her super likable. Like she was written to me like a really realistic, grounded character who's so smart and so skilled and so ambitious and so fierce and is a woman. And they didn't have to be like, and she's so sweet. Don't you love her? Like she was such a cool, like badass to me. And I loved that for a scripted show, especially. And I don't know, I'm like binging so many things at once, but yeah, those are my answers for now.
And one thing I like to ask people I interview is tell me a fun fact about yourself.
Ooh, a fun fact. Okay, a fun fact. I knocked out my 2 front teeth when I was 7 because I was trying to learn how to skateboard and I did a very bad job. And when you knock out your teeth as this is all of a sudden so graphic and painful. I'm sorry, but it's a fun fact. When you knock out your teeth and you're a kid, your head is still growing. So you can't like just immediately get fake teeth because they won't fit in like a year, 2 years, 3 years. So I just had like sort of kid fake two front teeth for like 10 years, all through like the rest of elementary school, middle school, high school. And they like, because they're your two front ones, like they just like sort of blended in and figured out, but they would change every few years. And even my best friends would be like, something is different about you. And when I turned 21, my head officially stopped growing and I got actual dental implants. And I joked with everybody that I wanted to celebrate my implants, implying that they were a different kind of implants, but they're just my dental implants. So I've had my two fake teeth for forever, and I've had so many different versions of them. So that's like my weird, I guess it's not that fun, but it is a weird fact about me.
I love it. I love it. And where can we follow your podcast?
Yeah, you can find Table Flipping wherever you listen to podcasts. We release every Friday a new episode. And then our Instagram is at Table Flipping Podcast. And then my Instagram is at Taylor Mishak, Misiak. And both Alyssa and I are also on Twitter with our names as well. But yeah, that's where you can find Table Flipping.
Wonderful. Well, it was a pleasure to speak to you. And I'm always open to discuss all things housewives. So we're going to do this again.
Ditto. I know. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Bye-bye.